Bharat Rashtra Samiti has been ruling Telangana for the past 10 years. There is a feeling of anti-incumbency among the people. Meanwhile, after the success in Karnataka, Congress has been able to become popular in Telangana, promising 6 guarantees, while BJP is still trying to get a hold of the state and establish itself in the southern belt. In this episode of Daily Salar, we have with us a renowned journalist, T S Sudhir. He is based in Hyderabad and has over 30 years of experience. He is an award-winning journalist who writes extensively on politics in South India. He has been an executive editor at India Today, a resident editor at NDTV, and he is also an educator, political analyst, and author among other things. Let's talk to him to know the pulse of the common people ahead of the Telangana election. So firstly, we want to ask you, what are the major issues that are dominating in these Telangana elections this time, the main ones?
See, what is interesting about this election is that if you were to look at the two Telugu states in the last 30 years, no party has managed more than 2 terms in office. We had in 1994 N.T. Ramarao's Telugu Desam coming back to power. N.T. Ramarao and thereafter Chandrababu Naidu stayed on in power for 10 years. He lost power in 2004. Then it was Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy and the Congress party. And in 2014, the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, which is now the BRS, that has also stayed on in power for 10 years. So if you were to look at history, that would suggest that perhaps it is time for change. So that kind of brings us to the question of whether people really want a change. Is there strong anti-incumbency against this government, as it would be the case against any government which has been in power for 2 terms? Well, yes, there is anti-incumbency for sure. So people at this point of time are doing an audit, as it were, of how good this particular K. Chandrasekhar Rao government has been. Has it delivered on the promises that it made in 2014 and thereafter in 2018? And whether it is good enough to renew their term for another term of 5 years. That's basically the question that is being asked. I spoke about anti-incumbency. The anti-incumbency is essentially because there is a perception that the MLAs in particular, incidentally, K. Chandrasekhar Rao renominated over 90% of the sitting MLAs, which means that there is anti-incumbency even against those MLAs because they are perceived to have made a lot of money, they are perceived to be arrogant, they are perceived to be inaccessible. So all these negatives are adding on, and that is kind of working against the ruling BRS. The Congress believes that it is not KCR alone who should be given credit for the formation of Telangana. They were the ones who created Telangana because the UPA was in power at the center at that time. And therefore, it is time for the Congress to be given a chance, given the fact that there are, according to the Congress, a lot of failures of the KCR government in Telangana in the last 9.5 years. Adding to the mix is the arithmetic. There is a third party, the BJP, and whereby, unlike other states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, here it's a triangular fight on paper, and that would mean that the anti-incumbency vote will also get split. So the success on whether the BJP does not take away a large chunk of that anti-incumbency vote. That is where the success of the Congress would depend. If the BJP vote percentage is higher, that would mean that it is eating away into the anti-BRS vote, and that would help the BRS perhaps return to power in a 3-cornered fight.
So, but this was regarding the political atmosphere. But when we come down to people, like the people of Telangana, I think unemployment is one of the questions that they are asking regarding the government, that why are jobs not being created. Farmers are also talking about specific issues. If you could tell us about those issues and if there are any specific regional issues in different parts of the state.
I personally, Akshita, see a demographic divide in the way Telangana is likely to vote. On one hand, you have the first-time voters, the 18 to 35 age group, which is the one which is agitated over lack of jobs, especially in the government sector, because there were paper leaks and the Telangana State Public Service Commission was not able to conduct the examination. So there are those kind of concerns. So the 18 to 35 age group people are the ones who are having those kind of issues. The ones who are above 40 are the ones who are receiving some kind of benefits from the Telangana government in terms of pensions, in terms of some kind of welfare scheme. So the perception is that they would be a little more positively inclined towards the government, because after all, you're getting some benefit from the Telangana government. So I see a clear demographic divide. You spoke about the unemployed. Yes, there is a lot of angst among the youth that they have not been able to get jobs, especially in the government sector. The jobs that are being created are only in the IT sector largely, and to an extent in the textile sector, which means mainly in Hyderabad and to an extent in Warangal. The others who are skilled in other kind of occupations, they are in, or other kind of craft, they are not able to secure jobs. And add to that the Congress narrative that, after the formation of Telangana, the only four people who have prospered are KCR, his son KTR, his daughter Kavita, and his nephew Harish Rao. So the whole perception that the family has gained, but the youth of Telangana have not gained. You spoke about farmers. Now the farmers thing is a little more complicated, because the government has something called the Raitu Bandhu scheme, wherein they give 5,000 rupees per acre now to every land owning farmer in Telangana. Now that, as per the last installment that was paid in the month of June, comes to 70 lakh farmers, which means that if I own land, let's say 5 acres of land in any part of Telangana, I would get 5 into 5,000, 25,000 rupees for the Kharif and 25,000 for the Rabi crop. Even if I am not a practicing farmer, I am not the one who is stealing the land, but I get that money, that 50,000 rupees in a year I make. The tenant farmers are some 22 lakh tenant farmers who do not have the land in their name. They don't get the money. So that is a major grouse that they have against the government, saying that why do you give to these wealthy farmers who are sitting in Hyderabad or Dubai or Mumbai, but just because the land is in their name, and this amount is obviously not passed on to the tenant farmers. So the man who's actually doing the farming, he's not getting the money. So those are the issues as far as the farming sector is concerned.
Are there any other issues apart from these that are very dominant among the people? If you could tell us about that.
One of the success stories, if I may say, of the Telangana government has been in the irrigation sector, because if we were to rewind the clock back to, let's say, 7 to 8 years ago, Telangana, along with the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, was notorious for farmer suicides. A lot of farmers used to die by suicides because of the huge debt, because of lack of water for irrigation, etc., because of the money that they would have borrowed from private money lenders, and that would create a vicious debt trap. In the last 2 terms of this particular government, one of the success stories for which they definitely need credit is the fact that because of Mission Kakatiya and Mission Bhagirath, they have been able to create a system wherein water is available for irrigation. There are these tanks which have been kind of replenished, rejuvenated in many of the villages, plus the dams which have been created, including Kaleshwaram. That has resulted in water being available to the farms. So the farmers' suicides you don't hear anymore now in 2023, as was the case, let's say, even 2014, 15, 16, the first few years of KCR's term. So that has been one of the success stories. Rewind to the Congress years when you used to have in urban pockets like Hyderabad, 4.5 hours of daily power cuts. Now in Hyderabad, in most of the districts, you don't have power cuts. In districts, it used to go up to 8 to 9 hours of power cuts daily. Now you don't have power cuts. So, from a very common man perspective and a farmer perspective, these two are some of the success stories. The problem is of corruption. Like the BRS government is alleged to have made a lot of money on, let's say, the Kaleshwaram, which is why the Congress is running the Kaleshwaram ATM as its campaign theme. The fact that they have made a lot of money, they have all enriched themselves. And so there is that feeling that if you give them another 5 years in office, not only will it add to their wealth, it will also add to their arrogance, and they would become very feudal in their mindset. Like, for example, KCR as the chief minister, unlike earlier chief minister who used to hold Praja Darbars and meet the common people, it was possible to meet the chief minister. It's impossible to meet KCR here because he's seen as inaccessible, staying in a palace-like building. So that whole feeling of a very feudal approach to governance, that is what is hurting both the ministers. Many of the ministers are facing very tough elections this time, as well as many of the MLAs of the BRS.
Also, so how has caste played a role in fielding the candidates this time? Because I think
Sorry,
BRS,
come again.
how has caste played a role in fielding the candidates this time? I think because BRS has mainly again, fielded candidates from Reddys and the Villamas. Whereas, of course,
Yeah.
Muslim votes are getting divided and they are also trying to strategize the candidates over there. So, if you could tell us about that as well.
See, caste, like in any other state in India, does obviously play a major role in Telangana politics also. KCR comes from the Velama community, which is less than 2% of the population of Telangana. And the Reddys, because they were the traditional zamindars, they were always considered both financially and politically extremely powerful and affluent. And over the last 10 years, there has been that kind of a grouse of the Reddy community that they are not the ones who are calling the shots. Though there are quite a few Reddy ministers in the cabinet, as well as the Speaker of the Assembly, the real power lies with the KCR family, which is the Velama community. So there is that kind of a grouse which the Reddy community have. Since Revanth Reddy, the president of the Telangana Congress, is a Reddy, so this election, one has seen the Reddy community kind of rallying behind the Congress, pumping in money, pumping in also their political support. KCR realizes that, which is why I think about 39 or 40 of their tickets have been given to the Reddy community in order to neutralize, so that the entire Reddy community support does not go only to the Congress. They also get a sizable chunk of that. So, which is why you see a high number of Reddy candidates in the BRS list, as well as in the Congress list. Velmas are, I think, about 10 or 12 in the
11,
list. The Congress has given more seats to Muslims, I think 5, as compared to 2 in the BRS list. The interesting part is what has happened in the BJP list. The BJP went with the slogan that if we are elected to power, we will have a chief minister from the backward classes, the BC classes. Now, that was again something very strange, because just a few months ago, they had actually changed their party president, Bandi Sanjay, who is from the backward classes. They removed a BC president of their state unit, replaced him with someone like Kishan Reddy, who's from the Reddy community. And now they've again gone back and saying that, no, but if we get elected, it will not be a Reddy, it will be a BC chief minister. So this kind of confused communication, messaging as far as their caste strategy is concerned is what has landed the BJP in a bit of, neither here nor there kind of a situation. But yes, caste does play a major role. In terms of BCs, both the Congress and the BRS have given tickets to about 24, 25 to BCs in their list. So that's a significantly lesser number than the BJP, which has given to almost 40 in their list. So Reddys, Velmas, and the BCs, these are the 3 major communities which have got a major chunk of the tickets from the 3 main parties.
So, BRS and Congress manifesto are very similar in terms of what they are offering to the people, be it in terms of women empowerment or the free bus travel, housing scheme. How is this going to affect the voters? Because you have already mentioned that there is anti-incumbency. That is there a question among the people. But overall, even in terms of schemes, how will it affect?
See, what's happening is that the BRS is banking on what it has delivered. Like their slogan is that from good to great. So it has been good so far. Now in the next 5 years, let's make it great. So they are banking on the fact, or at least their messaging is that 5 years we have done good work. Now it's time to make it great. The Congress is banking on the guarantees which it delivered in Karnataka, saying that that's where we announced the guarantees. It has worked well in Karnataka, and now it is time to replicate it and perhaps make it better in Telangana. So there were 5 guarantees there. Here they announced 6 guarantees, and in their manifesto they have added much more. For instance, things like, many of the things, as you mentioned, Akshita, are pretty common, whether there's a Kalyana Lakshmi, the Shadi Mubarak, the money being given to the bride's family for a marriage, all that is there. So that is pretty much common. Or the gas cylinder kind of scheme. The fact that the Raitu Bandhu, these people, as I said, were giving 10,000 per year. Congress says we will give 15,000 per year. So there is a lot of welfare agenda being put out there in the open, hoping that, that's what will get them the votes in rural Telangana. Even in urban Telangana, trying to say that, there will be housing schemes, etc. for various sections and free bus travel. Those are things which they hope will kind of strike a chord with the people and enable them to get votes. But yes, there is very little to choose between the two manifestos. So I personally feel that this particular election largely is being fought also on perception, that if we feel that KCR has done reasonably good work and he deserves another term, or we think that both ho gaya. That's another thing which is catching up, especially in rural Telangana, that okay, fine, he got us Telangana, we gave him 10 years, now let's go for a change. No, that's the kind of mood that is also setting in. And what is adding fuel to this kind of mood is the unrest among the youth. For example, if I mean, in a family, someone may be getting, we own, let's say, 2 acres of land. I may be getting some amount of money under Raitu Bandhu. But if my son is unemployed, that may affect the vote of the entire family of, let's say, 4 or 5 people. So that's what is going to be the game changer in this election.
Okay. Also, so BJP has still been trying to get a hold in the southern belt. It doesn't have so much power, but will it be successful in winning the elections in Telangana? Does it seem like that on ground that people might shift to that?
No, it doesn't look like, for a variety of reasons. One, as I mentioned, the confused messaging that they did, moving from a BC to a reddy and again to a BC. So that has kind of created a lot of unrest. Reason number 2, lack of a strong state leadership. Their earlier president, Bandi Sanjay, was one who was kind of getting under the skin of KCR and KT Ramarao on a regular basis. With this, let's admit, outlandish statements and allegations, but he was kind of creating a buzz. The cadre was kind of getting galvanized, the BJP cadre. And the BJP was emerging as some kind of an alternative to the Congress. But my guess is that the BJP peaked a bit too early. And thereafter, the Congress has started peaking only in the last 3 to 4 months after the Karnataka elections. So that was the second mistake that the BJP made. The third big mistake that the BJP made was that all along they kept on saying that, KCR's daughter Kavita would be arrested very soon in the Delhi liquor scam. She was interrogated a couple of times by the Enforcement Directorate in Delhi. But then suddenly the entire case went into cold storage, which kind of led people to suspect that these two parties are now having a deal. And that kind of, anyone who is anti-BJP will not now want to trust the BRS. Add to that the fact that Narendra Modi came here at a public meeting and said that KCR wanted to join the NDA. Now, that again raised doubts in people's minds, especially the minorities. Now, minorities are a good 12%. If you leave out let's say 3% in the old city area over which Owaisi has a hold, the remaining 9% is up for grabs. Now in 2018, the BRS got a major chunk of that minority vote. This time, a large part of that minority vote, at least 50-50 or maybe even 60-40, could move towards the Congress. And that is what is likely to give the Congress a huge momentum.
Also, so lastly, how will the result impact the broader political landscape ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections? Whoever be the winner, how is this going to affect the Lok Sabha?
Interesting, Akshita, because what happens is that many of the people, in fact, even when I've been traveling and many of my other psephologist friends have been traveling, one of the questions that is always asked is that, yes, okay, this is going to be a vote in November 2023. How are you likely to vote in April 2024? And what one has generally seen, and I'm not saying by a great sample size, but this is what one gathers, is that a BRS, someone who is voting for KCR this time, is more likely to vote for Modi in 2024 because they do understand that KCR is not a figure, even though he says that I am now a national party. The perception is that of a regional party. So they don't see him as a national player. So they think that they may have more to gain by electing a BJP member of parliament in order to get the goodies, and also some kind of a balance of power between the state and the center instead of putting all their eggs in one regional basket. But I think the Congress has a good chance in Telangana. If they do well in these state assembly elections, I think the 2024 Lok Sabha elections will see the Congress doing pretty well here in Telangana.
Thank you so much, sir. That's all, and it was great talking to you. I think we really got a great insight on what the actual people and what's exactly happening on Telangana right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.